Hello and welcome to IASPrimers. My name is Shubhashish and you're watching today's daily news analysis. Now, as part of our initiative, I make it a point to share questions for mains answer writing practice. In fact, I have very interesting questions today. So first question is about the landfill fires. So we always expect a question on landfills. You will get analysis also on landfills and associated issues for the environment. But I'm very specific on this, that we have a question on the landfill fire, that is fires that take place around the landfills, and what needs to be done. So this was being heard at the court itself, the court level. So I am asking this question. So this analysis you will not find on the net very easily. So this you have to prepare. And UPSC sometimes asks very specific questions also. Then I have a case study with reference to some demolition activity that had taken place. So ethical concerns, what corrective measures need to be taken. So we have the case study like material, we are utilizing it today. Then this is from GS1 associated with the early marriage of the girl child. So there is a tendency of early marriage. So this is an important social issue. So the government was contemplating on a bill that which said that the minimum age of marriage should be increased from 18 years to 21 years. So this was being heard. So I am asking a question from the similar subject. So this analysis will be very thorough for you. So we wanted to finish this. Now, when you write your answers, you can get them evaluated. So 2 answers every week. All we want is handwritten answers. Write it normally on pen and paper. Take the photograph, share it with me as a PDF. Use any app that is available on the App Store and share it with me, and I'll revert back to you by the next day. So you can share it on the Telegram or WhatsApp. The details are there in the description box below. My number is there in that. Now, moving on to the first news, India to grow at 8%, says the World Bank. So World Bank has released a new report, which is basically studying the economic prospects of South Asia. And it gains significance in light of the economic instability that we are seeing in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, and now in today's paper, even in Nepal. So this is taking place. Now, in that context, in that report, this report is titled as, it's a biannual report, South Asia Economic Focus Reshaping Norms, a New Way Forward. So this is released by the World Bank. So this report from Indian perspective says that the growth rate is going to be lower than what was expected or what was projected. And why is it going to be lower? Why? This is what you need to think. It's going to be lower. What the government says is because one is we are experiencing a fragile growth. I think time to time we have this lockdowns, new variant, this or that. So fragile growth, rising commodity prices, things are getting very, very expensive. Plus we have the Ukraine war. So the crude oil, petrol, diesel, these are commodities. So they are getting very, very expensive. And since we are importing all of this, so consider this, we are importing, so we are buying it in dollar terms. So let's say earlier it was $60 per barrel and now it is $110, $120 per barrel. So we are spending more on this. Plus, since we are demanding more dollars, we need more dollars to buy the crude. So our rupee value is depreciating or dollar is becoming more expensive. So it is kind of a double blow. Plus, recall, sometime back I referred to the issue of the semiconductors also. So semiconductors not being available, it is affecting the overall production of electronic manufacturing, of automobiles, you name it. So it is affecting. And because of all of this, inflation is increasing, things are becoming very, very expensive. Current account balance is it's deteriorating. Right? So these are certain issues that the country faces right now. Now it says that the government, obviously the government will need to change its monetary policy. That is, monetary policy is with reference to matters of supply and demand of money, which the RBI does. And the other thing is the fiscal policies, like giving fiscal stimulus or giving tax soaps, concessions on tax basically, or the government starts spending more. So these are the two things that the government can do. Right? But this has to be done with prudence, because if things are done without prudence, then we will be in the position of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was spending more and more for social welfare, but it was spending beyond what it could actually recover. So now it is on the verge of bankruptcy. So we don't want that situation. Okay. So it says that this has to be done, but yes, it will be great if we can focus on green investments or principles of economy which focuses on sustainable development. It is resilient, that is, it can bounce back from the shocks that it is facing, and it is inclusive. That is, the gains of the economic growth are available to everyone. It's enjoyed by everyone, cherished by everyone. Right. So these are the things that this report has said, and I think nothing new in that. Now I have prelims is approaching, or you may be doing it later. What you have to do from prelims perspective, World Bank from time to time releases reports like ease of doing business, logistics performance index, and UPSC also from time to time asks questions on the same. So refer to the World Bank website, go to the page and see which all reports it is releasing. And likewise, the twin of World Bank is the International Monetary Fund. So both these organizations are known as the Bretton Woods twins. So for IMF also do the same thing, and IMF has also been there in the news. Now coming to the aviation sector. So there is this plane, Boeing 737 MAX, which has had a lot of incidents of air crashes. Something wrong with this plane. In fact, if I was to travel, I'll check if that plane is 737 or not, 737 MAX. Okay. So now 90 SpiceJet pilots have been barred from flying this plane by some issue with the simulator training. So thereby it is being done. And this decision has been taken by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. Now for your prelims, Directorate General of Civil Aviation was created by a statute of the Parliament. And what does the statute means? Basically a law. So it is a statutory backing. Therefore, it is a statutory body. It comes under Ministry of Civil Aviation. That's very common. Now, one thing in this parliamentary session that was being talked upon, there was a recommendation that from the opposition that Ministry of Civil Aviation should be merged into overall the Ministry of Road and the Ministry of Transportation, basically. Why should we have one entire ministry just for one sector of transportation? So it could be made a department under a bigger ministry. So that recommendation that opposition had made in this parliamentary session. Now moving on to this third topic, next topic over here, where I have a question on landfill fires. So read the question only. Landfill fires are a grave threat to safety and health of the people living in the vicinity. Discussing the cause of the frequent fires and associated risk, suggest suitable mitigation measures. Now, naturally, my topic is inspired from this scenario, the Ghazipur landfill fire. So the landfill is there. So you must have seen this. Landfills basically are whatever waste that we are generating. The government finds free land and they start dumping that. So ultimately, huge mountains of waste is generated. Now, this waste has organic waste, like things that we eat from the kitchen, etc. Organic waste. Then it may have something that keeps decomposing, carbon type. So when it is done when it decomposes in an anaerobic situation, in a closed situation, when it is oxygenated, when it is in oxidation, in the presence of oxygen, then it will make CO2. Else, within the landmass, in the mountain thing, this converts into natural gas, CH4, and we all know CH4, natural gas, is burnable, it is combustible. So this is there. Plus, we are supposed to segregate the e-waste, the electronic waste, all the electric things that we have, and these things have those semiconductors and heavy metals. So these are also part of it. Plastics. Right. So all these wastes are there. So when this fire takes place, for some reason or the other, a fire takes place, maybe because of the heating, maybe because of some accident, or somebody just throws a BD somewhere, cigarette or matchstick, anything, something that triggers fire. Now this burns with the entire cocktail of pollutants, and this is very, very bad. So normal fire is just carbon dioxide, but then here we have these toxins, toxic waste that is burning alongside. So it is very, very bad for people living in the vicinity and nearby also. Plus, there are many other issues associated with landfills, like when the rain takes place or just the water, when the water is there, when it flows, it captures with it all the bad things that are there. So it forms a leachate, and that goes into the soil. That goes into the soil and it affects the soil, or it may drain into a sewer. So it may drain into the water and spoil that also. So those are other issues. But for the time being, I'm just focusing on the issue of landfill fires. And at the present moment, the High Court, the Delhi High Court on its own, has taken up this issue with the concerned authorities, which includes the Delhi Police Pollution Control Committee. It includes the East Delhi Municipal Corporation, and it is saying that time and again we have this problem. What are you doing about this? So court is asking a question based on a PIL, public interest litigation, which it filed by itself. So High Court filed a PIL, submitted to itself, and said that, see, this is happening. Right. It was actually about the entire pollution of the Delhi, but this incident was also taken place, and they were listening to this issue. So they're saying, what steps are you taking so that this incident does not take place, and what steps should be taken to avoid a repeat of the situation? And this is precisely the question that I have framed over here. So landfills, you have to talk about the landfill fires. Then the structure is given in the question itself. So cause, the impact that it has or the risks, then mitigation measures, mitigative measures, which they should be giving in some time from now. Okay, so measures. Now here, what you can do is you can also say that, see, these measures have already been taken. So you can say that these measures are already been taken. In addition to this, there are following suggestions, or the following committee have made the following suggestions which needs to be incorporated. Right. Now, when you're starting your answer, you can start your answer by stating the issue of the landfill and the landfill fires. And this, you can establish greater credibility by starting with a fact. Right. So that can be done, and that will make your answer stand out as compared to your other candidates that are appearing. Okay, so this is the thing that I had referred to. Now, this is a content. I kept the font, font a bit bigger so that you are able to read. So some reference material for you. And I strongly recommend watching the videos on the laptop. Bigger screen, less strain on the eyes. So you can do more with it. Okay. So this is there. This is from the Guardian paper. So this aspect is given over here. Some of the facts that are given. Then I want you to read this article from the net. Just Google this: unscientific disposal treatment of waste. So this is from the Down to Earth, and causes are given over here. Point by point, causes are given, and it also gives. And this is again specific to Ghazipur. So this is there. Plus, what mitigative measures have to be taken. Right. So these are certain things that you can do. This article is also there. This is the explainer section that is there on the Indian Express. I haven't referred to this. I refer to the other one. But I want you to do it by yourself when you're writing your answer. And just prepare from the point of view of 250 words. Beyond this, you will not be able to write. So if you cannot write beyond, there is no point of studying beyond this. So be smart with your preparation in that way. Next comes the case study. Okay, let me briefly explain the situation. So normally the ethics papers, case studies have a story. It will take me a lot of time if I start doing this. So I'm trying this approach. So basically there was this pipe, and pipe had a leakage. This leakage was very, very severe. And because of this, the people living in the slums. Now here, this is a slum that is being Madrasi people or South Indians are living over here. So Madrasi, South Indians are typically referred to as Madrasis by the North Indians. So they are a bit ignorant about all this. Okay, 1 second. Yeah. So this is taking this a leak was there. People were suffering because of this. So Delhi Jal Board, some government authority, Delhi Jal Board. So they came and they said that we will fix it, but to bring our machines and to find that pipe also, we need to demolish some houses. So some properties had to be demolished, and for this they were ordered, they were asked to vacate in the same day. And when you do it in the same day, it's not really asking; it is basically an order only. Okay, so they were to be vacated in the same day, which they did. They were suffering because of this. Okay, so when this was done, they said that, see, we promise you that we will rebuild your houses in 3 weeks. We will do it in 3 weeks. But now when the people houses have been broken, you can see this, and people are inconvenienced. It affects privacy, and more so if a girl is there, right? Woman is there, privacy, mosquito bites, snakes. So it's a safety hazard also. And then we also have incidents of intense heat waves. And from some time from now, we will also have rains also coming up. So this will affect, it will affect the property. It makes them more prone to stealing also. So those concerns are there. They're sleeping in a temple or some other place. Some are living in their own houses, but it is a safety concern. Okay, so some concerns are there. Now these people are saying that, see, these houses were illegally constructed. So how can we build it? So earlier they said that we will rebuild, and everybody knows that the slums are built on vacant areas, normally by the government. Private people would there, they would have built a accommodation over there. I mean, some private project would have come up. So this people start living over here, and everybody knows these are illegal accommodations. It's on government land. So they said, we how can we do it now? Right. So here you see the ethical concerns. Ethical concern from the point of view of the people, the ethical concern associated with the promise that was being made, right? A promise has been made by the authorities over here. Okay. Safety. So what are the ethical concerns involved? So this is the first thing that you have to state from different stakeholders. And in fact, any case study, when something has been asked to you, first you have to establish the facts of the case. It's only then that you can say that these remedial measures have to be taken up. So even if it wasn't asked, even normally, and sometimes students tend to be very mechanical about it. The only thing that you have to do the stakeholder analysis is because we have to establish the facts of the case, because then it helps us in establishing as to the ethical aspect over here. So this you have to say. Now, this thing has come to your notice. You are a senior bureaucrat, and this, or some political executive, and they say that, see, this thing has happened. People are not very happy with this thing. There is a morcha that has come up. People are raising their voice against this. So evaluate the situation, and give suitable remedial measures. Right. And since you are a very senior officer, well respected, your views will be taken into consideration. So the matter has been allotted to you, and you are required to share your recommendations to the state government, and your views are well received. State the corrective measures that should be taken up by the government, that you shall recommend to the state government. Right? Fine. 250 words. So this you have to done, and I'm waiting for this answer. Okay. So ahimsa parmao dharma. So we have Janma Kalyanak Mahotsav of Bhagwan Mahavir. Now, this is an excellent opportunity for you to revise the chapters on Jainism and Buddhism, key teachings of Mahavir Jina. Just type Mahavir Jina and space UPSC, you will find everything associated. What are the three Ratnas? What are the 5 vows of Jainism? Right. So basic facts you have to do. Don't memorize. I've never seen a question being asked on what are the 5 vows, but basic ideas. What are Shvetambars, Digambars? And by the way, there are 5 vows, and the Shvetambars follow only 4 vows. Right. So some basic information which will help you with your prelims. Okay, so let me just start with this opinion page. So I've taken up, and why I have not taken, I'll explain. Inflation must be tamed before it dampens consumption and growth. I think we have covered this n number of times from now on, and we know initially it will start by the cribbing of what RBI should have done, should not have done. Right, so these are the things. So we get a lot of facts. If you want to read it, by all means. In fact, 2 days back, yesterday I didn't cover, so day before yesterday, I had given a remark also that price stability is must for sustainable growth, something like that. And I asked you to comment on that. So that take this as a question and try writing that. The real script behind the call for, this thing has vanished, 1 second. Behind the call for a Hindi India. So South states, particularly from the South, they communicate in English. So they say that, see, rather than English, it's a foreign language. We should all communicate in one language, that is Hindi. Now it says it could be because of the 2024 general election. Now, basic idea should be there. We don't really have to do an analysis. Nobody is asking a question on this, at least for the time being, not been asked. The key phrase is focus on the futures for the future. So from the point of view of diabetes at the futures level, if we can analyze everything, then we can take corrective measures, and those diseases that are taking place, non-communicable diseases, transgenerational transmission of NCDs can be checked. Just this line is sufficient. Yeah. How far? Okay, this is about India's targets associated with the National Solar Mission. So from that view, it is important. In fact, again, this is repeated. If you want, you can take a note of this. Also take a screenshot, save it on the OneNote app or anything that you have. So that needs to be done. In fact, I was saving this and I realized I've covered this about 3-4 times already. I want to hide this. I'm doing it on Zoom actually. Okay. Yeah. So I'll cover this very briefly. So we have this National Solar Mission, also known as the Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission. Under this, the Prime Minister had said, intensified the targets, and he said by 2022, we will establish 100 gigawatt of solar power capacity, right? So 100 gigawatt of solar power capacity was to be created. So this was well before 2022 when the estimate was made. But now the report says that only some research is there, JMK Research and Analytics, some private research. They say that, see, only 50% has been achieved. You said 100 gigawatts, of that only 50 gigawatt is being prepared. And then 50%, there is a breakup. So one is utility-based, utility scale. So you know all this NTPC, etc. These are utility companies. So in a particular place, the solar cells are created like this. They generate electricity and then it is supplied to your house. So utility, and other is rooftop. Now solar is available everywhere. So why can't we have it on our houses? At least wherever it is, where there is a roof, people stay in apartments also these days. So on those buildings, we can have the solar panels. They can generate electricity. It can be stored and then ultimately be used. Or now, since solar is again not a very consistent stream of electricity, because sometimes the intensity of sunlight will be high, sometimes low. So at least the burden on the conventional forms of electricity can be reduced, because part of the electricity is being generated by the house itself, house, apartment, building itself, and the rest it borrows from the outside. So that can be done. So why is it 50% only? That is the thing that you need to consider. And before this, we have India currently ranks 5th after China, US, Japan, India, Germany in terms of installed solar power capacity, which is good. But again, Japan, Germany are very small countries. So we have installed capacity is around 55 gigawatt. Now what it says is that first of all, it is the pandemic that had created the problem. So we lost those, at least a year, at least we lost because of the pandemic. The other thing it says is that the rooftop component hasn't picked up. Rooftop solar electricity hasn't picked up. That is a problem. And what are the factors? The factors are primarily policy issues. It's a policy issue. Then the cost of getting the solar cells and whatever resources are required, infrastructure that is required, like solar cells, storage of this solar electricity, batteries, etc. It is still very expensive. There is lack of regulatory clarity on this issue. Lack of regulatory clarity. Now, imagine if somebody is generating electricity in one's house. We are on the next point. If somebody generates electricity in their apartments or office, and there should be a concept that this electricity, the household is able to sell it to the utility companies, those who are generating the electricity. So we don't have this concept. This is the concept known as net metering. That is electricity that you have taken and electricity that has gone out of the house, building, or whatever. So the concept of net metering is not there. So we are working with Germany on this front with this renewables. Then there is also an issue with reference to movement of electricity from within the grids. So, we need different types of grid where we can use electricity that is coming from the normal power and that is coming from the renewables. So for this, we need smart grids. And again, this is something that we are working with Germany at this moment. So because of all these issues over here, and yes, one more issue, lack of awareness. We have not been able to scale up to this desired level. Now, the study says that in the times to come, this thing will get better. Consumer awareness is increasing. In fact, at my own house, my family had gone to Bombay. So they saw this idea and they liked it very much. So they say that we will also do it, but now the capital cost is a concern. So these are certain things that can be done. And why should we do? So one, obviously, because of the green thing, it will reduce the pressure on the thermal power plants. We will be able to move to the green thing. It will be less polluting also. And we have the commitments, global commitments that we made at the recent Glasgow summit also, where we said by 2070 we will be carbon neutral. So carbon neutral. And for this, it said that by 2030, about half of our electricity, so in next 10 years, half of our electricity will be generated by the renewables. 50%. So 1000 gigawatt, it says, is the electricity that we will be needing. So of this, 50%, 500 will be coming from the renewables. Now, we don't know as to within that 500, what will be the component of the solar, but typically it is two-thirds of this will be coming from the solar component, because in 2020, the center had said, so this is 2021. So 2020, it said that the electricity generated renewables will be 450. Of this, 300 gigawatts will be solar. So this is two-thirds, I calculated. Exact two-thirds. Right. So these are certain things that you should know with reference to the solar aspect. Alarm bells over Nepal's dwindling forex reserves. So I've not read the article, and I didn't have to also, because I know things will keep coming up time to time. The gist is sufficient. So I think that also facts you have with you, right? So current account deficit is increasing. We all know the reason. Crude prices are increasing, supply chain issues, their economy, like we are importing so much. The Nepalese economy is more import dependent anyways. So they are importing more. Their current account deficit is increasing. Forex reserves have come down. So by 18%, it has come down by 18.5%. Not a good sign. So this is there. One of the reason is decline in foreign remittances. That is, people who are living in different parts of the world, Nepalese, they're sending back the money. We earn money in whichever place and then we send back to our houses. So that also has declined. Overall, the world economy is only not very good. Then inflationary pressures are there. The imports are becoming expensive. Inflationary pressures are there because of this. Globally, tourists come, tourist economy. So tourists are not coming because of all the lockdowns that are there. Then energy crisis caused by the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So all the factors are not very, very good well. Now, if instability is caused in Nepal, if an instability is caused in Nepal, we have the Uttar Pradesh, we have the Bihar, and the boundary is quite open, porous. This instability will cause problems in our country also. At the, if you look at Nepal again, Nepal is like a rectangle with the lower part being the plains, Madhesi population, which is quite similar to the population that is there in UP and Bihar, and the hill population, the hill states. So this is the 50% of the population in the plains, and if something happens, it has a bearing on what in the stability of our country itself. So this is a cause of concern overall. And if the instability is there, and if they go more, if they become more dependent on China, that again bodes well for our stability also. Okay. I think I missed the opinion section. We'll come to that later. I'm not covering it from the news perspective anyways today. So questions perspective. House panel deliberates on bill to raise the marriage age of women. And interestingly, there is a protest on this. So the marriage age, according to the prohibition of child marriage bill, it is at 18 years. For girls, it is at 18 years. So it says that it should be increased to 21 years. So the increase will take place. And this it says that it will help in obviously girls getting married at an earlier age. So it compromises on the education. For college education, you're at least at 21 years minimum. So it undermines the higher education. So higher education means the prospects of better life that is compromised. So the minimum age is being set at 21 years overall. It is being recommended. So this is this thing. Now it says the activists are saying that, see, you have women parliamentarians, don't take decisions in haste. There are women parliamentarians. You take their feedback also on this issue. The issue of women should be discussed and deliberated by women also, not just by the men. Okay. So you take their viewpoint also. This is a serious issue, and it has to be taken. And it says that just increasing the age is not going to help. Increasing the age of minimum age of marriage is not going to help. It should be also that there is emphasis on access to education, skill training, employment opportunities, safety of women. So those factors should also be taken into consideration if you want to empower the women. Just increasing this limit is not sufficient. A holistic approach is required, which addresses the overall issues that the women experience. Right. So these issues have to be considered. Else, in isolation, this will not help. We all know the child marriage still takes place. People from very prominent political families also are engaging in this. So this is not sufficient. More needs to be done on this perspective. And it says that if the legal age is increased, there may be a situation that those marriages which have taken place before the 21 year this thing, they may lose legal protection. So this may be counterproductive. Okay, so that is what the people are saying. Now let's look at it from the GS1 perspective. Examine the underlying issues associated with child marriage. So do you think increasing the legal age for marriage address the issue of child marriage? Justify your views. Okay. So what are the underlying issues associated with child marriage? So girl child being married at an early age. Why is it so? Patriarchal society, the girl being a paraya dhan. So plus the issue of women's safety, and the males are responsible for the safety of the girl. So let's transfer this burden of safety to the different household. right? So these are some of the issues. Then affordability of education, affordability of higher education. So that is a problem. There is a high dropout rate amongst the girl child, right? And ultimately they are married off. So underlying issues associated with this. Now, this is one issue is the causative factors. So causes which I just said, you'll find it on the net very easily. Beyond this, uh, what are the impact? How does it affect the child, girl child as a woman also in the future? How does it affect the prospects of a better life? That is compromised, access to education as it is affected. Pregnancy at a very young age affects the well-being of the child as well as the mother. It results in higher maternal and infant mortality rates, causing a cause of anemia and other diseases. So these are certain issues that result because of this. Yes, this articles are placed about child marriage, girls not brides. So some civil society organizations, so they had a lot of material on this. You can do this. And child marriage, Vikaspedia. So what is the government doing? What are the things? All this issue is analyzed. So this you can read. Now, based on this, say, do you think increasing the legal age for marriage address the issue of child marriage? Well, it should, but it doesn't. We have to address the underlying issues to solve the problem. So that has to be done. So this justification has to be mentioned, given by you. So read these two articles, it will give you a greater insight. In fact, for society, the problem is the books are not good enough. So this reference from this perspective will help you much more. Right then, so this concludes the session. So thank you for streaming in to IASPrimers with me, Shubhashish. Bye-bye, take care, all the best.